Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear friends, on this 4th of July weekend, let us fly into the breach. Speaking of which, 4th of July, all right, and we celebrate our nation's founding. We think that America has been a good thing in the world. But evidently not everybody thinks that.
No.
And some people are more vocal than others. And the one who's being, I guess, the most vocal since the last time we gathered together is Colin Kaepernick.
Yes. Yes. With that said,
he deserves a good chuckle. We'll give him a good chuckle.
Joe kind of let us in with a little patriotism. Let me read you the tweet that Colin Kaepernick sent out, and he quoted Frederick Douglass, which, by the way, was out of context. He kind of just grabbed a little paragraph, but I want to read it to you. This was on the 4th of July, what he sent out to America. What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? This 4th of July is yours and not mine. There is not a nation on earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour.
Now, Frederick Douglass said that.
Correct.
But obviously, I think it was Ted Cruz kind of put that back into context.
He did. But I
didn't read the whole thing.
Absolutely disgraceful.
Right.
It's absolutely disgraceful. And just to give everyone a little background as far as what occurred, strange bedfellows, I might add. Betsy Ross, Nike, Colin Kaepernick, kind of strange altogether.
Only in modern America.
There it is. Okay, so basically what's the background? Nike comes out with a shoe, obviously to commemorate our country. They have the Betsy Ross flag on it. What is the Betsy Ross flag? Okay, this is the flag with the circle, the stars and the circle. Colin Kaepernick, who is obviously an advertising I guess, subject for Nike. He's made a lot of money ever since he went through that ridiculous kneeling situation, which, by the way, I haven't gotten over yet with the NFL. But let me not digress.
Right.
Okay.
A lot of money in this horrible racist country.
So,
go ahead.
Anyway, so Mr. Kaepernick says to Nike, well, this flag represents, it's a symbol of slavery. At the time when slavery was legal, and he is correct at that, this was the flag of the country, so therefore you shouldn't use it. And Nike agrees, and they take the sneaker off the shelves.
Mm.
Okay. Let me just give a few facts. That same flag at Barack Obama's second inauguration was flying 2 of them.
Not hidden, is right out there for everybody to see.
So I'd like to say at this point, I agree with Barack Obama, because I'm going to be 49 in a couple weeks. I have never, in my 49 years of life, ever heard a connotation to that flag being a symbol of slavery.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
Yet, everyone on the left is jumping on board this ridiculous, they're making something, an issue out of nothing, frankly.
Right.
And
right.
If it was such an issue, why didn't you make it when Obama was what's it called, inaugurated?
Because it wasn't politically expedient.
Because it's not.
Well, exactly right. It's not an issue. Okay, if you want to look at the state of the world when America was founded, slavery was an accepted institution. Okay, in Africa too. I love the way these people like to look at history selectively. Choose this group of people for being guilty for the slave trade, but we're not gonna blame this group of people. Okay, when it's historically, if people would just stop lying about history. What did the Europeans? Let's educate Mr. Kaepernick for a second. Did the Europeans just show up on the shores of Africa, sail up the Congo River? Okay, and just start gathering black people and putting them on slave ships and bringing them back, or then starting to, let's say, and begin the slave trade? No, those black people were sold to them by guess who, Colin Kaepernick? Other black people, chiefs of those African tribes who conquered other tribes and then enslaved those people. This was the state of the world. It's not a nice thing. It's not. Slavery is obviously one of the most horrible things.
Still goes on.
I was going to get to that. Go ahead.
No,
tell them where it's. No, I want you to tell this man of color, because I'm sure that's how he describes himself, Colin Kaepernick. Okay. By the way, a privileged young man.
Beyond comprehension.
Okay, beyond comprehension. Give your millions back that you made in this racist country before you start lecturing the rest of us. Okay, but tell Colin Kaepernick where slavery exists in 2019, because I'll tell you where it doesn't exist.
Well, I'll tell you.
It doesn't exist in America.
Well, it exists in the Far East, who make the sneakers that Nike puts on the shelves.
Right.
This is also a documented fact.
Right.
Yet Nike is pretending like they give a crap about slavery, which they don't, because they employ slaves in the Far East. This was an issue when Michael Jordan had his sneakers, and people actually put it to Michael Jordan. Should you represent a company? I remember this, actually.
Right.
And frankly, to be truthful with you, he basically ignored that particular, I guess.
Because of what? Because what you always say.
Well, that's a given.
Because of money.
But I'm just saying, Nike is guilty, one could say, of slavery, yet they're pretending like they give a crap. By the way, Colin Kaepernick, if you ask me, should just be ignored. He should be ignored.
Unfortunately,
Joe, he has nothing to say at all.
Unfortunately, Joe, you're right. Unfortunately, and even we're guilty of it, okay, is that I know what you mean about ignoring it, and we all really ought to, okay? But when the mainstream media, okay, who is the enemy of the people of the United States, yes, MSNBC, yes, CNN, yes, PBS, okay, you are the enemy of the people of the United States of America. You have abdicated any sort of journalistic standards. You've totally done away with them. You've demolished them, and you are in the tank for the Democratic Party and the leftist agenda, okay? But when you have a mainstream media that's going to put him and prop him up, okay, as they have been, as some sort of spokesman for the downtrodden whatever in this country, poor oppressed masses, then we have to respond. It would be nice to ignore Colin Kaepernick. The NFL's obviously ignored him, or the NFL owners, because guess what? He's out of the league because it was shown that he wasn't good enough to be in the league. So he pulls this publicity stunt by taking a knee, makes a name for himself. But when you have, again, we said it a million times, when you have the mainstream media on your side, then yes, we unfortunately have to talk about this nitwit. Forgive me.
And also
he's a nitwit.
Phonies. Julian Castro, who was in the Obama administration, who, by the way, flew the same flag at his second. It's actually laughable. He's such a phony. This is what he's been saying. Him and Beto O'Rourke, they strongly imply that the Betsy Ross flag is a symbol of hate. Where were you when Obama flew it?
On the same stage.
Phony.
On the same stage.
A phony. It's laughable. It's actually embarrassing.
Do you know what? I wanna just say one thing to pick up on that for a second. You know what angers me? Like the audience knows now, the audience that we're getting, and which thanks to all of you and many others, our audience is growing. Everybody knows I'm angry. All right, and that's fine because I guess that could be somewhat entertaining. Okay. You know what angers me more than anything else, okay? And I know Joe gets angry about it, and I know you do too, okay? Maybe I just have a bigger mouth. Is that attitude that Joe just spoke about on the part of not just Julian Castro, but many others, and this is their attitude. I'm going to say this. I know I was sitting right on that stage with Obama when the Betsy Ross flag was flying. I know that you could Google this and find out I'm lying through my teeth. But I, Julian Castro, think you're all stupid. And that's why I get angry. And I get even more angry because the mainstream media lets him get away with it. Where's Chris Matthews or the rest of them turning around to Julian Castro saying, like any common sense, again, we have what, Joe? What do we have hanging on the walls? PhDs in common sense.
There it is.
Like any common person who possesses common sense would say, well, you supported that. Your boss flew that same flag. What do you got to say about that? That's a normal question. That's not an attacking question. It's like, well, what did you say when Barack Obama did that? But they won't ask that question. And when we and people like us, it's like, oh, you're just the alt-right. You're just the haters. You're just all those crazy people. Why? Because I'm asking a serious question of a guy who wants to be president of the United States. Say, why weren't you railing about this back in 2013? Why was this not an issue back in 2013? Again, because people like him and Robert Francis O'Rourke, also known as Beto, okay, they all think we're stupid. And that's what angers me more than anything else. All right, it's out there. This is a stunt. on the part of Kaepernick, on the part of Nike. The Democratic presidential candidates are going to get they think they're going to get a little, like, what, some traction out of this?
Well, not only that, you know, if you say that you care about racism, and racism exists, let's be real, there are people who are racist in this country. I'm not a fool. I absolutely will agree with that statement. You're not helping it by doing this, because this is a created stunt. This is garbage. This is garbage. And to be honest with you, it's embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
It's embarrassing. And you're a phony. Whoever contrived this, and Nike, as if they give a crap.
Right.
They're probably paying people $3 an hour in Malaysia, $3 a day.
Right.
In
I was going to
Malaysia,
say $3 an hour. That'd be a great wage.
$3 a day, as
Right.
if they care about slavery. And Mr. Kaepernick, if you care about slavery, why aren't you in Malaysia talking about that?
Right.
Why aren't you in Africa now, where there's slavery going on with Muslims enslaving Christians in places like the Sudan,
Right.
in places like Nigeria?
Where's your outrage?
Where are you in those situations?
Right. Don't lecture America.
Spare me.
600,000 men died in this country in a civil war. I'm giving you something you probably, or maybe you were getting high when you were 10 years old and you didn't pay attention in history class when you were in the 5th grade. Okay, but we actually paid attention. 600,000 Americans died fighting to end one of the reasons they fought was to end the institution of slavery. Do not lecture us. Don't lecture any of us.
Let me just read this quote one more time, which he said on 4th of July, which is just nauseating. What have I or those I represent to do with your national independence? This 4th of July is yours and not mine. There is not a nation on earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour. Then leave. Go away.
Right.
Go away.
If
this place makes you so angry,
Right.
leave.
If you're so disgusted with America, or are you making too much money in our free enterprise system,
And
Mr.
what
Kaepernick?
are you doing with that money is my question.
Right, you feeding the poor? How much of your money do you feed the poor
How many kids
with?
are you educating in Camden? How many kids are you educating in the slums of New York City? What are you doing with those millions of dollars
Kneeling?
that you just made?
Kneeling? Is that the best
I
you
don't
can do?
know what you're doing.
Calling America racist? Gee, that's original, Colin.
You would not be who you are unless you were in this country.
Now, why don't we call it the way it is? Okay, when it comes to this idea that America is racist. Okay, Barack Obama, last time I checked, is black. He got elected twice. Julian Castro was his HUD secretary. Julian Castro's Hispanic. Okay, he had a job in that same administration. Guess who put Obama in office twice?
White people.
White people. Okay, white people. A lot of the people you're now calling racist. And why do you call them racist now? Because they changed their party affiliation, at least in 2016, and they voted for the guy who they thought would do a better job than the woman who wouldn't even bother to go to their state to try to campaign. The same way they were open-minded to Barack Obama twice, they were open-minded to Donald Trump. And that's what you can't stand. That is what you cannot stand, is that those same people said, well, I'm not buying the leftist agenda. We tried that for 8 years. It didn't work. I'm still out of a job. Let me vote for this guy, Trump. You racist. That's what Kaepernick says. You racist. Misogynist, of course, because he beat Hillary Clinton. That same man or woman didn't go out and vote for Hillary Clinton. So he must be a misogynist. All right. The same people who might not vote for Pete Buttigieg if he's on the ticket in 2020, either as the presidential nominee or the vice presidential nominee, it's going to be anti-gay. It's all anti. Every time you don't go along with their party line, you're all these different, what do we always say, deplorables. You're just a deplorable.
And how about you look to build bridges between the black community and the white community? How about we work to build bridges as opposed to coming up with this nonsense? And it's just that, nonsense. They should be ashamed, all of them, including Nike, as if they give a crap. As if they give a crap about Colin Kaepernick. They actually just are marketing. They see a demographic. Why do you think they brought him on? they see that they can make money on it. And frankly, they did. The stock hit the roof, went up.
No, really?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the point. They don't care about Colin Kaepernick. And frankly, they don't care about, to be honest with you, bridging the gap between the blacks and the whites in America.
No, because guess
They
what?
care about money.
A bridge goes both ways. And when you're dealing with the hard political left, and Colin Kaepernick has obviously found a home there, okay, they don't want to build bridges. And I just want to comment or respond to PM real quick, coming in, well, why should Kaepernick go to Malaysia or Africa when the issues of racism that you agree exist, and they do exist, occur right here? Because you're not experiencing, black people in America are not experiencing the racism and the slavery that they are in Malaysia or in Africa.
And if you say you're against slavery, why wouldn't you be against it everywhere, against all people, whether they're white, black, Chinese, whatever they are?
Well, that's
and
always, sorry,
also, not for nothing, what is he doing to basically help that situation? What is the media doing to help this situation?
Nothing.
If anything, I say they're fueling it. They're fueling it. They're throwing kerosene on it because this is not an issue. This is not an issue, straight up and down. And I'll be honest with you, if it was an issue, if I felt that, I don't know, like if they flew the Confederate, I mean, I'll be the first to say there are some connotations to the Confederate flag, and people use that flag as a symbol of racism. I'll be the first to say that. I mean, let's be honest, I'm an objective person. This is garbage.
This is the original American flag.
Also,
it's the same flag, and here's another thing. It's the same flag that we have now, only we didn't have 50 states then, we only had 13.
That's all.
It's the same exact flag. Okay, the stars are just configured differently. It's the same flag. So what is Colin Kaepernick actually saying? By extension, using a little bit of logic, okay? America was racist then, was racist at its founding, was racist through the 19th century, and is still racist today.
He should just be ignored. He is a non-issue. To be honest with you, I thought from the football deal, I didn't watch football for 2 seasons. I still am kind of disgusted by it, frankly. Frankly, I would have shut that down in a second. The NBA shut it down. The commissioner shut it down immediately.
Well, see, that's
because it was bad for business.
Right.
It's bad for business. You're an employee of an organization, just like I'm an employee, and it's not your time. My answer to him during that, if it's your time, do it on your time. This is not your time. And if you want to do it, you're fine. And if you don't, if you continue, you're fired. I don't need you.
Well, we've
covered this on the show.
And we've given this example before, okay? None of this. See, Joe and I are working men, okay? We go into a workplace, okay, that is owned by somebody other than ourselves, okay? And that owner or corporation makes the rules. So when we want to talk, okay, this is where we do our talking.
On our time.
On our time, and in our little studio here, talking to all of you and anybody else who has the choice whether to watch us or not. Colin Kaepernick they put him up. Let's talk like they put him up as some kind of hero. Okay, you're heroic. If you had balls, you would have grabbed a few other NFL players and whoever you could get. Okay, you would have stated your case to them and said, "Come on, let's do a march on Washington." You didn't do that. You want to know why? Because you know nobody would have watched you. Nobody, like Joe said, everybody would have ignored you. But what did you do? You wait till there's 10 million people watching a game where you're on the team, and then you kneel on the sideline. You're not heroic, pal. You're not heroic.
Then you wear socks that show that killing a cop. By the way, there's a lot of black people who are cops too.
Yeah.
Do you think that when they kiss their wife goodbye and walk outside to go do their job, they enjoy seeing those socks that you wore on the sideline? Like I said, garbage, should be ignored. He's a non-event. It's embarrassing. And anyone who jumps on top of this it's just a bunch of phonies and embarrassment. By the way, the Anti-Defamation League also said that the flag is innocuous. The Anti-Defamation League.
And they got a long list of hate groups. So I was actually, I'll be honest with you, they're so in the tank for the left too, the ADL. I was shocked to find that out. All right. But yeah, even the ADL said, no, this one's not exactly an issue. So the net of the whole thing, as you said, we wish we could ignore Colin Kaepernick, but unfortunately, because the mainstream media and the culture is making him a hero, well, we're gonna be as iconoclastic as you and your leftist buddies. We're tearing you down. You're an idiot. Number one, you're an idiot. You're ill-informed, okay? And you are the son of privilege. You've had a better life than Joe and I had, okay? A lot better. And I'm not talking about in terms of now. because we think you're an empty, lonely person. But in other words, you had much more privilege growing up than we had growing up in blue collar New Jersey. Okay, you went to school. You were an NFL player. You went to the Super Bowl. You made millions of dollars, and now you're a spokesman for another ungrateful entity known as the Nike Corporation. Okay, do me a favor. Do yourself a favor. Okay, before you even though you've embarrassed yourself, before you completely embarrass yourself, shut up. Just shut up. And if you don't like America, yeah, we need to get back to saying it in this country and not letting the left bully us. If you hate this country so much, Mexico's to the south, Canada's to the north. If you go due east and cross the Atlantic Ocean, you could go to any progressive country in Europe. You don't have to stay here. We want you to stay here. I'm not throwing you out. But if you hate it so much, just friggin' leave. Just leave.
I don't know what else we could say about that. But it's the truth. It's just the truth.
And that's what we're all about here. Not just with Colin Kaepernick, but everything else is telling the truth, because you are at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello. All right, and this is and yeah, we're going deep into the breach. What's next on the hit parade,
well, again,
Joe?
every Sunday at 8 o'clock, you can catch us on Facebook. Also, very soon, we'll be streaming from YouTube on HolyFaith Media. So please keep us in mind, and we'd love for you to join us.
Yep.
Our next segment.
Let's talk about another group of ungrateful, privileged kids.
Antifa attacks a gay freelance journalist in Oregon, Portland, Oregon. Mainstream media pretty much goes silent. Why do you think is that, Joe Pasillo? Because they attacked a gay freelance journalist. The only people, to their credit, and I'm about giving credit where credit's due, Jake Tapper of CNN and Brian Seltzer, they did cover it, in fairness, and I want to give them credit because they did. I didn't. Everyone else, though, no go. Dead silence.
I'm going to be honest with you. All right, Jake Tapper at times could be objective. I'm shocked that Brian Seltzer actually was objective in this whole thing. But all right, at least it's something.
But for the most part, the media goes silent. Just to give you a little background, the gentleman's name was Andy Ngo. He is the son of Vietnamese immigrants. He happens to be gay, and he's been critical of Antifa. Antifa is basically a militant organization. It stands for anti-fascist, Antifa. They operate primarily in the Pacific Northwest. A lot of times they've had a number of marches in Portland. The interesting thing about this particular march was they didn't have a permit and they were blocking streets. So why were they allowed to even be on the street? Where was the police chief? Where was the mayor? Clearly, they're turning a blind eye to this. This has gone on in the past. These men have masks on their face.
Also illegal.
They don't have permits. How could you possibly permit this? But they did. Now they attack a man who's been critical of them in the past, was giving him actually basically threatening him, and he knew going into this that he could potentially be assaulted. And I give him credit. He has a lot of courage, a lot more courage than they do. They cover their face. He actually showed up to actually report on the incident.
And they knew, I think you said they knew who he was. Okay, so I think he's a self-described conservative. Okay,
I did not know that.
I think he describes himself as a gay conservative. Okay, and so they knew who he was going into it. All right, he was recognized by the thugs wearing the mask. Now remember, let's talk about how do you want to start here? Because you could talk about Antifa, you could talk about the mayor, you could talk about the cops. Where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, to be true with it, let's start with the media. This is what I want to say, and I want to begin by a quote from Hillary Clinton's press secretary, who happens to be transgender, by the way. This is what this gentleman said.
Hold on to
I don't even know what to call
Yeah,
him.
we don't know if it's a guy or a girl. Just whatever.
Andy Ngo intentionally provokes people on the left to drive his content. Being attacked today was the greatest thing for his career. Now, this is the question I pose to you. Every January, there's a pro-life march in D.C. Say two Catholic men.
Say us.
At the pro-life march attacked a journalist from the Huffington Post and beat the living daylights out of him, which, by the way, they did to Andy Ngo. They beat the hell out of him.
Well, let's get that clear real quick. Punched him in the face, bruised up his face. The pictures are online. They threw milkshakes at him. There is a question whether or not there was instant cement mixed with the milkshakes, but nonetheless, they threw milkshakes at him, okay? They stole his GoPro that he was shooting with. And a guy who went to defend him, there's pictures of him in the hospital. He got hit. He's bald like me. He got hit in the back of the head with a bicycle lock, had staples in his head. So let's be clear about the level of violence we're talking about. A bicycle lock, let's be very clear, can kill you. And this kid and the guy who defended him, both the diagnosis when they got CAT scans was they had brain bleeding. Okay, which means you could die. That means you're bleeding in your brain. And that was caused by Antifa. So
let me pose that question once again. How do you think the press would react if two Catholic guys go up to a Huffington Post reporter at the March for Life and beat the living daylights out of him with a bicycle lock? How do you think that would go?
I don't think that would be too favorable.
I don't think there would be silence.
I think that story would stay in the news
that's just
for
what
months and months.
Silence. Nothing. You know what that's about? They don't care about gay people either.
Right.
Because he's gay. And he got his ass kicked.
Right.
And no one cared.
That's right.
That's the funny part about this. They don't care.
Right.
They care about what? Their tribe and their political agenda. That's what they care about. Once again, phonies! You're phonies. Absolutely and utterly phonies.
Can't say it any better than that because that's what you are. And remember something. You used the proper two words. Their leftist agenda. Okay? I said this, Joe, for a very long time. When somebody is black and conservative, okay? And again, I'm not making this up. There's evidence. You could go online. I remember when a bunch of SEIU, that's the Service Employees International Union, a bunch of white guys. Now, I'm heavy. I got about 25 pounds to lose, all right? These guys would crush my skull. These guys were big and fat and strong, probably, truckers and stuff like that. Anyway, they beat the crap out of a black guy who was wearing a T-shirt that said, "Don't tread on me." Okay? Beat the crap out of this guy. You know what the mainstream media said? Nothing. But that was a white guy and a bunch of white guys beating up on a black guy. Why? The black man was conservative. He's wearing it, but now again, implied conservative because he's wearing a slogan from the American Revolution. So you can imply that, or you can infer from that he's probably conservative. You know, the SEIU is a bunch of leftist thugs, and they beat the crap out of this guy. Why? Because race doesn't matter. Politics matters. Because this guy was black and the mainstream media went silent. Now, you talk about their treatment of women, okay, and how they've just crucified women. And the one who immediately for me comes to mind is the way they tried to destroy Sarah Palin, okay, when she was on John McCain's ticket, as though she's not a real woman. So you could attack a woman. Sarah Palin got death threats, okay, death threats. But that woman, she doesn't count, okay? Because again, it doesn't matter that she's a woman. What matters is her politics. And the leftist agenda doesn't look at her as a woman or a real woman because she's not a leftist. One more time, let's get back to Andy Ngo, okay? It's not good enough that if me and Joe beat the shit out of Andy Ngo, pardon my language, okay? All right? Or like in Joe's description, let's say a gay journalist from the Huffington Post at a pro-life rally. Okay, we would be beheaded in the middle of Times Square. But remember, it doesn't matter that Andy Ngo's a homosexual.
Son of immigrants.
All right, and son of immigrants. Yeah, that's another thing too. He is a conservative, self-described conservative journalist. Okay, and that's what matters. He doesn't fall into ideological lockstep. And we only say this to illustrate the point is don't listen when they cry homophobia, okay? Or when they cry about misogyny, or when they cry about racism. They don't care about you, whether you're gay, black, woman, whatever the case may be, unless you toe the party line. Andy Ngo did not toe the party line.
And where's the pride flag? Where's the Stonewall chant?
I want all the gays in New York to go out to Portland and beat the piss out of Antifa for beating up a gay guy. You can't point to one instance, not one, where you could show that Catholic men beating the crap out of a bunch of homosexuals in New York City. But Antifa, all right, hundreds of them gang up on this one poor immigrant gay kid, and you all have nothing to say about it. Take your Stonewall protest and shove them up your ass. Because he's gay and you won't defend him. Okay? So that's how much Joe and Joe care about what you have to say, about your moral indignation, about the evil Catholic Church, about evil straight men and all your nonsense. Not listening. You're hypocrites. And what's Joe saying 5 minutes ago? Phonies. You're all phonies. You're all interested in a political agenda. That's it. You don't care about anything else.
That's it.
And Antifa. Here's another thing. Let's get into the cops, the mayor.
Well, they're clearly turning a blind eye. I mean, there's no, Ted Cruz is actually trying to launch an investigation on the mayor. The mayor's name is Ted Wheeler. Absolutely is a legitimate, I think, pursuit. I would also question why the police chief. I actually think the police chief should be fired. Frankly, you don't have a permit. I'll be truthful to you. Let me set the stage. It's the 4th of July. It's Independence Day. If I go up in the middle of my town with 5 guys and start marching and blocking the street without a permit and say it's Independence Day, it's a great, obviously it's a celebration. The police will come and they'll say, you cannot do this. You're blocking traffic. Mm-hmm. If I say, well, I'm going to do it, guess what happens to me? It's an innocuous subject. It's Independence Day. I think we'll all agree. I get arrested. Mm-hmm. How could you possibly not stop this? Not to mention, these are people with masks on. Not to mention, they have a history of violence. Clearly, you're in the bag. Clearly, you're turning a blind eye. Clearly, you're supporting this issue. Mm-hmm. I don't understand it. I can't understand it. And frankly, this man, Andy Ngo, is going to sue the living daylights out of him.
I hope Andy never has to work a day again in his life.
I love it. And I've said this before on the show, and I will say it again. That's what people understand.
Well, shouldn't they sue the police chief too?
You sue them all.
Throw him in there too.
You sue them
all. Throw
in
there too. Throw them all there.
That's what they understand.
If you broke down on a very basic level, what is the primary function of government on any level, whether it's the municipal level, the state level, the federal level, is the protection of the citizens. That is your primary job. Now, there's other things you need to do, because without that, without the enforcement of law, we have what we always talk about, chaos, okay? And we don't want chaos. I don't want chaos for Portland. I don't want chaos in Southern Bergen County, New Jersey, okay? And it's like we talked about last week with the border, how they just want an open border. These people are derelict in their duty, and they need to be held accountable. What's his name? Ted Wheeler, whatever it is. Ted. Him, the city of Portland in general, okay? He, as the mayor, and the police chief all need to get the bull suit off them by Mr. Ngo, collect about $1 billion, okay? And Andy Ngo should go set up a new enterprise that's going to do real journalism in this country and really stick it in there, you know what, okay? That's what needs to happen. These people need to be held accountable, because I want to be clear about Antifa. Masks, number one, illegal. If I wear a mask in public, walking down the street to my job, I don't have a permit to walk down the street to my job. If I'm walking down the street with a mask on, like a bandana that's over here, like in the cowboy movies, okay, I get questioned by the cops. And I should be. They're going to stop me, okay? So number one, you're wearing masks. Number two, obviously, or like Joe said, they don't have a permit. So it's an illegal gathering. You can't do this without a permit. The cops immediately should have been moving them along. When they resist, which of course they would have resisted, then they need to be frisked. And what are you going to find? Bicycle locks and pepper spray. Okay, now that's what we know of. Sooner or later, these idiots are going to start carrying guns, and I hope to God that they don't. But if the cops don't do something about this,
this is not the last time.
Pepper spray is painful. Okay, I hope you know that. It incapacitates you, okay? It's not fun, and it's used to intimidate people in a case like this. And a bicycle lock, as we said, will break your head. It'll crack your skull, and you could die. The cops allowed this to happen, and the mainstream media, outside of two guys, Jake Tapper and Brian Stelter, is completely silent on this, while at the same time we know that all of them, okay, would have been in an uproar again if it was, let's say, a pro-life group or a Catholic group or a couple of Catholic guys like us beating the crap out of a leftist journalist.
By the way, we don't do that.
Well, that's right. We don't do that.
We don't do that.
Well, see, we don't give that to them, number one. And number two, we actually live by our principles, okay? We don't walk in the street and beat the crap out of somebody simply because they disagree with us.
And let me actually, because Joe and I were talking about this. Why do they behave this way? Well, this is their thinking, because I did a little reading on it. Their thinking is certain speech is violent. Now, they determine what that speech is, by the way. So their thinking is this. You don't have a right to say certain things. So therefore, I have a right to stop you. Mm-hmm. And if that means through violent means, I'm justified.
Right.
See, that's the thinking behind this, actually. This is not an American idea. Right. If you disagree with me, and many people do, many people who are listening right now may, let's have a conversation. I welcome it. We will have a conversation. However, I do not have the right to strike you, ever. And the moment that I do, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Yet, in their mind, they feel that your speech, and by the way, what they call fascism is any idea of conservative like thinking, mm-hmm. they consider it fascism. By the way, they're the fascists.
They're the fascists.
That's the humor in this. The humor. This is almost like a play.
But we've said this a million times. They know they're lying. We know they're lying. But they're not trying to convert us. They're trying to get people who are possibly or perhaps less informed, not up on these things, who they could play on their emotions and say, well, don't you think that haters should be beaten down? Don't you think that, like they try to liken themselves to, let's say, the civil rights movement, which, funny enough, the civil rights movement was a nonviolent movement, okay? That they try to say that they're only fighting against oppression and hate. I still don't understand how Andy Ngo represents oppression and hate. You're going to have to explain that to me. But I gave you this example before, Joe, to give it an illustration. If you have two armies on a battlefield, the first thing that occurs on that battlefield is the artillery barrage. Before any troops start moving forward, they have to soften up the target. So what they do is they start firing the artillery behind the lines. They kill a few guys, they hurt a few guys, but in the meantime, the main army is still there. But it's a softening. That's what they do. They soften the target. Okay, and the same happens. It goes both ways. But the thing is, this is what the left is up to right now. Antifa is the artillery barrage. They're only preparing us. They're getting they're getting their troops ready to start marching forward. When their troops start marching forward, because they know that people like us are not violent. We're not interested in civil war. I don't want to fight a civil war. All right. Then they start to get really violent. There's going to be certain triggers, in my opinion, that are going to lead to that. I think if Roe versus Wade gets overturned, I think that's going to be a big one. I think if Trump gets elected again in 2020, that's going to be a big one. This is where they're going to use what you just said about we are just fighting hate. But now hate's gone to a whole new level because women are not allowed to kill their babies.
Well, here, this is what I say. We are not for violence, but we are for self-defense. And I'm going to tell you this. This is how I would handle this if I was the mayor of Portland. You are absolutely permitted to protest. You are absolutely permitted to get a permit. You are absolutely permitted to voice your opinion. But don't touch anybody.
Right.
Because if you do, I will bring down the force of God upon you in plain English. Right. And I will drag you to jail like you've never been dragged to jail before.
Either that or the emergency room.
So that is basically the message.
And I would, Joe,
if you say to me, if you touch somebody, if you hurt somebody, oh, my friend, if I was the police, I will arrest you, and it's not going to be gentle. And that's the truth. And that's what I say. This is, there has to be order. And I'm not talking about police brutality, but I'm sure as heck not going to tiptoe across the tulips.
No.
If you start hurting people.
Right, you're not.
No way.
I want you to hammer, because I do want to make a point about, I want to give another example, if I may, about how they try to sell this these violent acts, okay? But let's make a point very, very clear, because this is important for anybody who watches the Frontline with Joe and Joe, okay? It is a command of our faith, because it comes from Jesus Christ, that we are to turn the other cheek, okay? I could get punched in the face, okay? And I can have the strength and the courage, okay, to turn the other cheek and let him hit me on the other side. But one thing I not only cannot do, because I have a moral obligation to do, okay, as a Catholic man, is to defend those who are being attacked.
Look at that man who defended this guy.
He got cracked in the head. But he was right. Now, he wasn't even beating up at him. He was just trying to, he was one of those guys that was getting in the middle. He's a good Samaritan, just trying to break it up. Our message is very clear, okay? If you do this and you come across the wrong group and you think you're going to punch a 150-pound gay kid and bully him, okay, or a woman or a teenage girl or anything like that, and there's a few guys that look like us standing around, I hope you're fast. I hope you're fast. Because if we catch you, you will, I promise, you will never, ever, ever hurt anybody ever again, because you won't be able to. And I will be within my moral rights to do so. You will not commit violence when guys like us are around. And we're not tough guys. We don't want to be tough guys. I hope to go through the rest of my life and never have to put my hands on anybody for the rest of my life. Don't force us, Antifa. And I'm telling you this not from just us, but from a lot of people out there. We're not Proud Boys. We don't go looking for a fight with you like those guys did. We're not some of these other groups that went out there to look for a fight with you. We're not doing that. But we will defend. We will defend.
And this country should, and the police should do the same. That's their job.
There's the biggest point.
That's the job of the police, to protect and serve. That's what their job is to do. Andy, have you take a look to see what he looks like? He's a small man. He could have died. That's the fault of the police.
Right.
That is the fault of the police. You do not permit that, period. Never mind the Good Samaritan who took
Go look at that picture, by the way.
We hope you
just go look at the Good Samaritan, Portland, Andy Nago, and look at the back of the guy's head.
So that's what I'm saying. If this is where I just don't understand. You know, you push people to a point. You know, there has to be law and order, and these are cops. To be honest with you, a lot of cops are a lot of tough guys. To be truthful with you, don't push it.
And we can't blame them, because obviously they were being told to stand down.
Oh, clearly.
In Seattle, in Portland, in past incidents with Antifa, with Black Lives Matter, they've been told by their superiors, including the mayors and the police chiefs, you'll stand down and you'll give them room to do their thing. No, you don't get room, Antifa. You get a permit. And then when you get that permit, you stay within the limits of that permit, and then you disperse afterwards. That is the exercise of your freedom of association, or the right to protest the government for the redress of grievances. That's the right you have. And Joe and I and anybody, any self-respecting America, I'm just not going to be there. I don't care. Go ahead, have your protest, okay? I don't bother with the gay pride parade because they have a permit to do it. So I'm not going there, and I'm not going to come and bother you. Don't bother the rest of us. You better start leaving people alone, okay? Because you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt if you hit the wrong person. I'm telling you right now, because you're pushing the wrong buttons. And I will say this. I think it's part of, I did hear somebody else say this. This might be part of an overall leftist agenda to try to force a violent reaction. That's why we have to remain controlled.
Well, it's not even civilians. I just say the police. And frankly, when you break up as a cop, if I was a cop and people are hurting people, you're not going to come in and talk. You're going to have your baton out. You're going to have your pepper spray. And frankly, you're not there to have a conversation.
No.
So that's my point.
Think they're going to have a conversation with you if you were doing something like that?
That's my point. Like, if I'm a cop and I see this and you're hurting somebody with a lock, not for nothing, you're going to take a beating. And frankly, I have no other recourse. I have to arrest you. And you're a violent person who could be a threat to me.
Right.
This is what's happening. So my deal is, you could do your thing. You could say your piece. Just keep it in line. Within
the confines of the law.
Just keep it in line.
I do want to make one more point, because I've always found it so disgusting. You know, I was having, I think I was telling you, I was having a conversation with someone who doesn't really agree with me on much. And this person said, you know, you don't argue as much as you used to. In other words, this person was railing against Donald Trump or the Catholic Church or both, whatever the case might be. And it was kind of, I chime in a little opinion. So you don't argue as much as you used to. And I'm like, is like, first of all, what's the sense in arguing with somebody? You're not going to change anybody's mind, okay? And number two, I said, well, you know what? I have a show that I do with my brother-in-law, and we do this show, and you know what? That's where I do my arguing. That's where I do my venting, because at least I'm talking to people that might spread the word, who think the same, and we'll keep that conversation going and going and going and going and see where it goes. But I did want to say to you, because I find this so disturbing, because Antifa is just a part of the overall problem, because you were talking about the media, okay? Let's be clear, okay, about where the media stands on all this. And media, let's say, being as leftist as they are. You remember when Steve Scalise got shot?
I do.
Okay. Now, let's be clear. If they were all liberal Democrat, if they were all a bunch of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes playing baseball, okay, and a right-wing nut came up and started shooting at them and almost killing one of them, Joe and I would be just as vocal condemning that person, and wanting them to go to jail. And because these are our leaders, whether I like them or not, all right, you don't shoot congressmen and senators. You don't. Now this guy goes to the ballpark, right? He starts shooting people, right? Almost kills Steve Scalise. Here's my larger point. Joy Reid, who I do not even know after she said this why she should even be on the air, okay? How she was not fired. She's having a conversation about the cause of this. This guy's a Bernie Sanders supporter, and no Republicans blame Bernie Sanders, by the way. They didn't do what the left does, whereas the left blames the person, let's say they'll blame Donald Trump. Nobody blamed Bernie Sanders because this guy was a Sanders supporter, all right? They said, no, this guy's a wacko. He's a angry guy, went there with a gun to shoot Republicans. That's what he did. They didn't blame Bernie Sanders, okay? Joy Reid, after having this little parlay.
Just to give a little background, who is Joy Reid?
Joy Reid's, she's either CNN or MSNBC. You know what? The reason why I say it like that, she's a journalist. The reason why I say that, because they're interchangeable. She's a liberal journalist on TV. And she said, well, now I'm paraphrasing, but I'm pretty spot on. She said, well, you know, Steve Scalise, you know, he is anti-choice and anti-marriage equality.
Who cares? You don't shoot him.
But that's my point, Joe. The implication in what she said was, you can understand why this man wanted to shoot them and almost killed Steve Scalise, because, real quick, because of his position on abortion and gay marriage.
Look what Hillary's press secretary said about Andy Ngo after he gets beaten to basically almost to death. Being attacked today was the greatest thing for his career. This is a transgender person.
Which I thought gay is part of the LGBT.
I thought the pride
thing applies to everybody.
Like, because he's also gay, that you're supporting this, that they beat this man to death. Oh, not to death, they beat him up.
They beat him pretty bad. Let's put it like that.
They beat him up. So, I mean, where were you? Disgusting. Disgusting. And this is where we're at.
This is where we're at. And that's why we talked about softening, is because that's why I mentioned Joy Reid. That's part of the artillery barrage. We're going to subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, convince people that to be against them and their leftist ideology is hateful. That if you disagree with them on anything, you're taking a hateful position. Therefore, violence could be used to stop you, not from being violent, because we're not being violent, to stop you from being able to speak your hate speech. That's a real problem, America. You wouldn't want it if conservatives were doing it to you. All you liberals out there, you wouldn't want it if conservatives were doing it to you. You would say that you have the right to free speech. You better start respecting other people's right to free speech, or else that's what we're going to get in this country. We are already in a soft civil war. If anybody denies we're at least at a certain level of a civil war, your head's in the sand. We are in a civil war. Before it approaches the level of violence, and I mean widespread violence, not just Antifa, but really widespread violence, we better start talking to one another. We better start finding something that we could do to stop this, all right, and to tone down the rhetoric, because you people, you're the ones angering us. And we're not calling for violence against you, but you call for violence against other people, and that's why I mentioned Joy Reid, because you justify it. You justified Joy Reid, the shooting of Steve Scalise, a member of the United States House of Representatives. You justified it because of his position on abortion and gay marriage. You basically said it was okay for this guy to shoot him, or at the very least, understandable why he would want to shoot him. You should have been fired, lady. You should have been fired, and you weren't. And shame on your boss for not firing you. Shouldn't be a journalist.
Well, we're deep in the breach today. We're deep into it.
Well, unfortunately, see, now Antifa, that's one thing. See, we use the breach, obviously, as a metaphor. With Antifa, you really are in the breach. You really are. Because I've told you, I've said to the audience, I've said to you before, I have not seen Antifa, all right? But when I pray down at Planned Parenthood, once a month, all right, in front of Planned Parenthood, we do the rosary procession, and more people on our side show up. It's nonviolent. We have a permit, okay? Father Fidelis has a permit, and we march down after.
We don't
Mass.
hit people with rocks.
We don't hit people with rocks and bottles. We pray the rosary, okay? And we pray, and it's peaceful. We get yelled at, screamed at, and I say we again. I've always said these people that I've joined down there have been doing this for a very long time, okay? They are really at the front line of the whole abortion problem in America, okay? But I've seen them come this close. I've seen Antifa-like tactics on their part. The idea of provoking. See, they want to provoke a Juchadel like me, okay, to punch them in the face by yelling at an old lady. Obviously, I have self-control, so I'm not doing that, okay? But they want that so they can get it on video, and then they could spread it through the media and social media and say, look at these violent pro-life people. Look at the hypocrisy. That's what they want. But my point in bringing it up is I've seen it. I've described it to you. You've seen it too in your life, okay, where you see exactly what they're all about. The veins pop out of their head. Their eyes are blood red. They look at you. They scream at you. They spit at you. They mock you to your face. Okay. Antifa does the same thing. The only difference is Antifa does now. Okay. This group hasn't gotten to that yet. They probably will. And like I said, probably when Roe versus Wade gets overturned, that's when they'll start getting more violent. But like I said, pepper spray's a bitch. You don't want that in your eyes, okay? And a bicycle lock could kill you. So there's not much difference. Again, it's part of the softening, and it is scary. I'm not a scared person, but obviously you look at this, I think you would agree with me. This is scary. This is really the place we're at in this country right now.
But freedom has to be fought for every day, and that's what this show is about. The truth has to be told. You have to stand up for the truth. That's what this country was about. And frankly, that's what this show is about. And that's what I implore all of you to do as well. This is not a tribal show. This isn't left versus right. And I think the next segment's going to prove that.
Oh, yeah.
We're not about left versus right. We're about right versus wrong. And that's what we talk about. And a lot of times we talk about things that the mainstream media don't talk about, or take it from a perspective that they don't talk about, frankly, because they don't have courage.
Right.
And that's what we do.
Right.
Our last segment, which I think you'll find pretty interesting. This week, there was a Faith and Freedom Coalition conference in D.C., and Rand Paul said something to be, I thought it was very interesting. That's why I thought, Joe and I thought we would, basically present it to you, because a lot of people wouldn't know that this conference even took place in D.C. Basically what he said was, and he shocked the listeners at the conference, he said that the GOP has not put up legislation to defund Planned Parenthood because they basically want to get a spending bill passed in Congress. This is what Rand Paul, who is he's a libertarian, but I believe
he's conservative. Now, your dyed-in-the-wool libertarian, let's say, probably would lean more towards being pro-abortion, or at least not caring about the issue. Same on gay marriage. Whereas Rand Paul is conservative, leaning libertarian, thinks the government has too much power. Big Fourth Amendment guy, all right, speaking a lot about unreasonable search and seizure and things, or our Fourth Amendment rights and protecting them. But he is pro-life. I actually, when I went down to the D.C. pro-life rally, I haven't been there in years. I was there once back in 2013. He was one of the speakers there. So he is pro-life. He leans libertarian, but he's conservative.
But what I'm saying is this is what the people of the United States wanted, and this is what Donald Trump campaigned upon. By the way, Donald Trump was at this particular conference, and in that conference, he basically kicked it off by calling attention to a pro-life activist who happens to be a Down syndrome individual. Her name is Katie Shaw, who, by the way, a lot of Down syndrome children are being aborted. 40% of them are being aborted in America. because you could detect Down syndrome in the womb. So she's someone who's outspoken. Donald Trump was there. He is the most pro-life president since Roe v. Wade. Where is the Christian right? Where are the U.S. bishops? Where are they in saying that this man is the one who's fighting for life? And where are they to speak out against those who are in the GOP, who claim to be pro-life, who basically use it as a token to bargain with the Democrats in the Congress to not defund an organization that has been caught on camera selling human body parts? Look it up. It's been proven, and you can watch the conversations, and whose main source of revenue is abortion.
Right.
And by the way, this is why people, one of the main reasons why people voted for Donald Trump, this is what the people of the United States want. And by the way, we're winning hearts and minds. Right now, people are not for abortion.
If you had a national referendum right now,
Roe v. Wade goes down.
Roe versus Wade would go away. That wouldn't eradicate abortion. That would send abortion back to the states. Obviously, that's why Illinois and New York pushed through these unbelievable permissive abortion laws. Basically, they're non-abortion laws. They're basically like, you want to have an abortion, it's as easy as ordering a pizza. Don't worry about it. California, the same thing. But if we go back to the states, okay. So Roe versus Wade, that's one thing. So
and if this is your representative, by the way, and they're Republican, let them know about it or vote them out. Vote them out.
They have used the Republican Party, with the exception of a few people. They have used pro-life people in America like they played us like a fiddle. They played us like a fiddle because we keep voting for them with the hope that they would actually do something about, if nothing else that you could get done, get the easy stuff done. Okay. Defunding Planned Parenthood is something that 70% or more of the people of America say.
Why should I have to pay for that?
Even pro-choice people turn around. Even people who call themselves like they don't really care. I won't call them fist in the air pro-choice or pro-abortion, but they're kind of like, I don't really care about the issue. But if you ask those people, do you want to pay for abortion? They go, no, I don't want to spend my tax dollars for abortion. I'm against that. All right, I'm not paying for it. They'll at least say, I'm not paying for it. And the Republicans, people really need to get this through their head. No, it's because, and we will say this all the time, Joe is exactly right, okay? The outrage is mostly nowadays coming from the left, but there's plenty on the right, and this is one of them. Are you smoking crack, you senators, and you GOP senators and you GOP representatives? Are you high? This is an easy one. What did Rand Paul say about winning? Didn't you say something about
he basically said they don't do it because they'll probably win.
They'll probably win, and they're so deathly afraid. What are they? I'm sorry, Joe. What are they? Are they so afraid? I want to break it to these GOP guys. If you're afraid of Hollywood, they hate you anyway. If you're afraid of the big elitists and the corporations at Google and all these other companies, all the libs, the Zuckerbergs of the world, the Benioffs of the world, all these people, they hate your guts anyway. Okay? What are you afraid of? You stab in the back the people that actually give you the power to go there and actually do this one small thing. Not even asking you to ban abortion. We know you're not going to have the balls to do that. But could you please defund Planned Parenthood? Can you give us a good laugh at Cecile Richards like she laughs at us? Because that's what she does. She laughs at us because we vote for you. And she knows that you're afraid of her. Would you please show some spine? Is this so difficult?
Was Martin Luther King afraid when he stood up against the injustice? Was Nelson Mandela afraid when he stood up against the nation? This is about standing up. It has nothing to do with right or left. It's everything to do with right and wrong. And if you're not on our side on life, then you're not on our side.
That's right. The Republican Party is a pro-life party. There is no room for accommodation with abortion. We will leave your party.
That's when I stop voting.
And I know this is going to be, I know I piss off a lot of people. Joe, how about I piss off conservatives now? We will stay home in 2020. We'll let the left win the presidency in the House and the Senate, and America be damned as far as we're concerned. Because it's damned anyway, because you let it happen. Every time somebody trusts you to go do something moral, something decent, even something small like defunding Planned Parenthood, you won't even do that. We will stay home and not vote for Donald Trump or you. And then let Elizabeth Warren become president. And then come back and ask us for our vote. You know what you're going to do? The way we would kick Antifa's ass is as fast as we will kick your ass. When you come knocking on our door and say, don't you want to vote for me? You're conservative. You're Republican. Get the F off my property is what I'm going to say. Now, forget about America. It's over. Republicans have been given too much of a chance. Joe, too much of a chance. For them to do something as small as this it blows my mind.
This is the first thing. It actually happened on Saturday. Anytime a politician asks me for a vote, someone came to my door running for state assembly. Are you a Republican or Democrat? They happen to be Republican. So I said, you got my vote. Because Jersey's a mess and the taxes are out of control. But when people are at the train station, they always ask me. They say, are you going to vote for me? It's election day. I actually sometimes ask them, what's your position on abortion? I put them right on the spot. And then I watch them squirm. And then I basically say, I'm not voting for you. And
have a nice day.
People could say, listening to this, you're a one-issue person. On this, yes, I am.
What did we say this week?
Absolutely. Because life is everything.
That's right.
I've said this before on this show, and I'm going to say it again. If you said to me, I could take away 75% of the problems in America with one solution, and that one solution is this: anyone over 70 that cannot work has to be killed, I would say, I'm not for you. I'm not voting for you. Right. That one thing, I would not vote for you. Well, guess what? If you're going to tell me that you're going to kill a child in the womb, I'm not voting for you. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. That's when I stop voting. I stop voting. I don't vote anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm done. I am absolutely done. This is a fundamental issue, and I'm going to tell you this. We were on the wrong side of history on slavery. That is a fact. That is a historic fact. Mm-hmm. We are on the wrong side of history. If you take one thing from this show, take that. We are on the wrong side of history on this issue. 50 years from now, if the United States still, even if it exists, if it does, we're going to be embarrassed by this. Embarrassed by it. Mark my words.
You're right. And the frustrating part is it's not just on abortion. Okay, we've spoken about it before, how the Republicans time and time again. Somebody said recently, I heard somebody say, if you want to see the Republican Party 20 years from now, look at where the Democrats are now. Because the Republicans just allow the Democrats. Now, again, Democrats have a lot of power. The left has a lot of power because they control the major cultural institutions like Hollywood and the media and everything else, business now and all that. Okay, so we get that part of it. Okay, but the Republicans, because of their inaction, where they could decisively act, by the way, like they did in Alabama, God bless those people, and in Georgia, where they're trying to pass restrictions on abortion and hopefully eventually eliminate abortion. They did that in Alabama, and they're taking heat from Iger, from Disney, and the NFL, and Mark Benioff from Salesforce, and all these people. At least they have some balls. At least they have some backbone. Whether or not that legislation stands or not, or whatever, but at least they were given the opportunity to act, and they acted. What do you do? Look at how many Tea Party guys went to the Senate. They've all stabbed us in the back. When did they show up? Marco Rubio was a Tea Party guy. He got elected in that way. Marco Rubio is an establishment Republican. If there ever was one, because Marco Rubio is an establishment Republican. That's all they care about. You guys sell us down the river. John McCain, God rest his soul, and I don't just say that flippantly. I mean that. But John McCain came out of Arizona while suffering with cancer to stick it to Donald Trump to vote against repealing Obamacare, knowing that he got elected to repeal Obamacare. He was the deciding vote.
That was just a personal deal.
But my point is, but he allowed his personal animosity towards Trump to stick it to all of us when we specifically voted for
Because
these
they
people.
don't care
Exactly.
about you.
And even the exalted John, you can't say anything
Oh,
about
he's a
John
maverick.
McCain. He's a maverick. And Megan will go on The View and start crying because her father's not here anymore. Donald Trump, that ogre, attacked him. Your father stabbed us in the back, Megan. Don't you get it? Okay, it's not against him personally, the way he used his political power as a personal vendetta against Trump. He stuck it to us, and these Republicans are sticking it to us now. Defund Planned Parenthood. I'll tell you who's on our side with that. Donald J. Trump is on our side with that.
Has been from the beginning.
All right. Donald Trump is pro-life. I don't care how pro-choice he was when he was in New York. He's not the same guy as he was when he was in New York. Okay, 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35 years ago. He's changed his position, and he's following through on it. He's ready to sign for a bill that defunds Planned Parenthood. When are you going to step up? Because I'm telling you something, you think you could take advantage. You think I care so much about America that I won't let it fall into the hands of the leftists? I'll suffer. Joe will suffer. We don't care. We'll suffer. But I'm not going to give you my power anymore unless you start grabbing your balls. Okay? And that goes for John Kinsey, and the list goes on.
I also have to look myself in the face.
That's right.
I can't support that. I'll never support that. Ever.
Right.
Ever. I'm going to get a little Catholic on you. You're supposed to preach in season and in out. When it's convenient and it's inconvenient. That's the truth. The truth is not determined by politics. The truth is determined by the truth. And you say it when it's popular or when it's unpopular. And that's what you also teach your kids. That's what I teach my kids. The truth is the truth. And you say it in season and out of season. And if people don't like you, I wish you would like me, but I'm sorry. I have to live with myself before I could care about what you think about me. I have to speak the truth, and this is what we elect people to do. And if they don't do it, vote them out, whether they're Republican or Democrat.
Right.
Vote them out.
But in this case, let's face it, we're talking about, so you expect you're going to get attacked by the Democrats. You expect that they're not going to support you. Let's say Joe Rossinello or me, Joe Pasillo, at the front line with Joe and Joe, as we are every Sunday at 8 o'clock, going live on Facebook. You expect the left not to like us, not to agree with us on anything, and not to pass anything we want. You expect that. But we expect that when we vote Republican, okay, that they're going to follow through and represent our interests, okay? And in this particular case, like I said, this one doesn't even take much courage, Joe Rossinello. Defunding Planned Parenthood takes a lot of courage.
Well, they're doing it because they want to get their spending bill.
But see, but that's what I mean.
And they feel that they could bargain with
Then the spending bill be damned. Forget about the spending bill. Defund Planned Parenthood. Don't you guys want to see the left squirm for a change? The way they make you squirm, okay? Don't you want to see them come into the Senate chamber unhappy, disgruntled, because they got beat? The same way they love it when you walk into the Senate chamber and you're unhappy and disgruntled because they beat the piss out of you? Even if for no other reason. Don't you at least want to win once in a while? Don't you? Don't you at least want people like us to say thank you? Because I don't thank you for anything. I'll thank Donald Trump for a few things, but I won't thank you. I won't thank you for anything. None of you have any backbone. None of you, except maybe Rand Paul, okay, who's the one who basically,
exposed him.
Who exposed him. And I want to throw, if you don't mind, I've always wanted to do this. We have the front line with Joe and Joe. So I want to throw another fake-o under the bus. And I'm doing this specifically because he's Catholic. The Catholic governor of the state of Ohio, John Kasich, okay? You are a turncoat, my friend. And if I'm speaking out of turn, God forgive me. You have sold us out on gay marriage. You said flat out we need to move on from that issue as though it's not important anymore. You were presented pro-life legislation that you could have signed into law. You did not do it. You vetoed the bill because you said, well, it wouldn't survive scrutiny anyway. Doesn't matter. You had the opportunity to do something about it, regardless of what the Supreme Court might have done, okay? And you did nothing. You did nothing. When you get on a stage, I want to throw up. When you were on the stage in 2016, I think I did throw up, okay? You are a turncoat. You have sold us down the river 1,000,000 times. You are an establishment Republican. You will do nothing to change the culture in this country. And I'm happy that Joe and I have this show, so we could speak directly to so-called conservatives like you who do nothing to represent our interests. Oh, of course, support the corporations and the free market, because that's all we care about anyway. You're, as we say in Italian, you are a disgraziato. So I reserve that word for the left mostly, and the Christian Gillibrands and the Joe Bidens of the world. You, my friend, have now been tagged with disgraziato.
That's coming at you from Bloomfield Avenue.
That's
like
right.
something you hear from JJ's Hot Dogs.
That's right. When you're on the corner of Lake Street in Newark, when you're at JJ's Hot Dogs, you'll hear the word disgraziato a few times. Okay?
Well,
and
there
that's
it
the
is.
bottom line.
There it is.
So Joe and Joe, we're going to be, we want to thank again all of you, of course, for joining us. We've had many of you join us tonight. Sorry we didn't get to the shout outs. PM, Nancy, Jonathan Ross, the whole bunch of you. Vinny, thank you so much. Michael, for all showing up. And many, many others, as I can see from the screen here, are watching us right now. We will be going simultaneously next week. We'll be broadcasting, thanks to Jonathan Ross and HolyFaith Media, we are going to be doing our live show from YouTube, from Jonathan's channel, HolyFaith Media. He has a very wide audience, and we're going to try to grow the audience even more. And thanks to you, which it has been growing because you're spreading the word. And at the same time, we're going to be simulcasting to Facebook. So obviously, you'll be able to join us live on Facebook and on YouTube, whichever you prefer. So we wanted to thank Jonathan for
Absolutely.
that. He's been a big help to us. And just as a little anecdote, Jonathan stumbled upon us while he was online. I had set up a little small YouTube page. And he's really, really picked up the ball when it comes to the front line with Joe and Joe, helping us tremendously, getting the word out there, sharing our videos with his audience and the people that watch him and his channel over on YouTube. So we want to give a big shout out of gratitude to him and HolyFaith Media, to all of you, because we see you here every Sunday. And like I said, we're seeing more and more names on the screen here that are joining us. We thank PM. All right, we asked for challenges. PM challenged us tonight. We spoke a little bit when we were talking earlier. So this is what we want, okay? You know, is to have dialogue. You don't have to agree with Joe and Joe. You don't have to. We're not looking for people to be in lockstep with us, because we're not in lockstep with anybody except the truth, okay? Because that's what it's all about. But tremendous gratitude, right, Joe? Because we're growing. We're growing very, very quickly, as a matter of fact, organically too, which is really, really good. The truth wins out, and we both know that.
Absolutely. Joe, what's the deal with our conversation?
Our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation, it's going on everywhere.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next week at 8 o'clock.
See you next week.
Have a good one.
Peace.